I don't want to be sounding depressed and beat up. I'm not. I've been rescued, and but when you ask me to go live it, it's hard to not step back into the pain because it's not just my pain. It's I feel all my friends who were in my office saying, well, "Can you sell my house?" I go, "How much do you owe?" And they go, I said, "No, not for what you owe." And the wives are on my shoulders crying. "What are we going to do, Louie?" I mean, I can relive that. It's terrible. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Louie Lee. Um, I'm here to tell my story, and happens to be about finances, and it goes back to the 2008 years of my life where I was literally facing bankruptcy. And hopefully you get something out of this story. I'm very grateful to share my story, but sometimes when I think about going back to that time period in my life, the pain and the emotions are real. And so if I cry, I apologize. My history is I've been in real estate for 35 years. And at this point in my life, I was finally starting to make a little bit of money where I could actually invest a little bit more. And I talked my wife into allowing me to invest in an opportunity. And unbeknownst to me, or otherwise I wouldn't have done it, the market of 2008 hit. And I was in a world of luxury homes. And at that point in time, the world stopped. The finances that we invested were obviously at risk, but that was just part of it. I had no idea what I was about to go through, and it was about as bad as you can imagine. But we went through this time period, and we didn't know how long it was going to be going on. And I tried everything in my power to find solutions to creating some income. I used the term, it was like musical chairs, and the music stopped and there was no chair. And I looked around and I saw a lot of my friends and family with no chair, and it was tough. Melanie and I went through everything that we could to try to find a solution. And we made it as long as we could, and we were down to pretty much used up every resource that we had, and trying to work out solutions for the debt that I had owed and the banks that were involved in my real estate adventures. It was just a really miserable, hopeless time in my life and my wife's life. It's humbling to realize there's nothing you can do when you feel hopeless to fix something and you desperately want to fix it. You can't. And then you realize that you're responsible for your wife and your kids as the leader of the family. Whew. I took ownership for leading my family to this point. Wasn't real happy. The one thing that we were together through the whole process. We weren't fighting. We weren't blaming either one or blaming me. I didn't feel that. So we were just united and praying and hoping to find a solution to our problem. But we got to a point where I didn't think there was a solution, and we just didn't see any hope in front of us. And I remember the day when we wrote our last check for our house payment. And Melanie and I prayed over that check. And we just said, Lord, I trust you. Don't know what's going to happen. This is it. And said it's my responsibility. I'm sorry. But whatever happens, we know you're going to be with us. I just felt no matter what, my marriage wasn't breaking up. Still going to be intact. And I felt like God was going to help us get back on our feet somehow, some way. Didn't know how. But we surrendered everything at that moment and full trust to Him. And not knowing what the outcome was going to be. I don't know the exact time, but it seemed like 24, 48 hours. And by God's grace and His mercy, He chose to intervene. Somehow, some way, God put this opportunity in our lap. I had somebody call me out of the blue, and we had a closing, and we ended up never missing the house payment. By God's grace, we're still there today, and I can tell you that it was from a point of hopelessness to receiving a phone call that only God can do that. Why me? You know, I have these feelings come over me. It's humbling. It's hard to even talk about this. But I have friends and family, and I have clients that it didn't look like He helped them. He chose me. And I know grace is something that we don't deserve, and mercy is a gift from God. Together, they're so powerful. I struggled feeling guilty that I got rescued. And whether you're struggling with your marriage, and some people's marriage gets saved, we have people that have cancer and some get saved. I had financial problems, crisis, some people get saved. We don't know the sovereignty of God, but we do know He didn't rescue me and give me His grace and mercy for me to be guilty. I know there are people who have been rescued similar, and they go about their life like nothing's happened, but I can promise you that Melanie and I, we're just never going to be the same. We live our life trying to show the grace and mercy that we received. As a result of what we went through, we have both changed. And as painful as it was, there's no doubt that it's one of the best things that ever happened to us, and how we grew in our relationship with God and trust in God and our willingness to serve Him. When we are in a fire in our lives, I mean, the heat is turned up. It's very painful. And so many people want to get out of the fire and find their own way out, instead of allowing God to use that process to help mold us. Because if you think about the refiner's fire, and this is the vision that it worked for me and I used it, but I visualized the goldsmith, and I visualized the pot, old-fashioned pot, and I visualized the gold in there melting because of the heat. And then Jesus standing there as the goldsmith, taking the impurities out. And I always thought, well, as painful as it is, if you understand the process, it's a time. There's a set period of time that God allows the heat on it. Its purpose is to melt so that He can remove the impurities. It's not to keep you in the fire forever. Once it's melted and once He takes the impurities, He's done. And the process is over. And then He can take that and mold it into something special. And that helped me. And sort of succumb to that and embrace the fire, so to speak, knowing that it's temporary and that He had a plan and a purpose. As painful as it was. So the joy that I live with now is so meaningful because it's usually related to somebody else. And I just love that. And that's really what drives me daily, is to watch where God is and see what he's doing and help him where I can, and just sit back in amazement of how he touches people. I thank him for everything that I have. If I get a phone call that somebody wants to hire me, I hang up the phone and say, thank you, Jesus. I meet people, I walk out of their house, thank you, Jesus. I don't feel like they're mine. I feel like I do my part, but everything that I have is a blessing from him. And I'm very, very grateful for all of my relationships that I have, the things that are really important. Thankful for my health, thankful for my kids' health, but everything that I do seems to be more sensitive to thanking him for everything. If there's somebody out there that's in a similar place than I was, and you feel hopeless and you're not sure what to do, and you're dealing with anger and pain and fear and all the emotions that come from this, here's what I would tell you if you were sitting here with me from my own experience. Stop trying to fix it. Trust him more than you ever have, and let go of fixing it. We play mind games with ourselves. We're disappointed in where we are. We're frustrated, we're angry that where we are. And I think you got to let that go and just say, well, no matter what, I'm going to walk with Jesus and he's going to help me. And I think if you just understand that no matter what happens, he's going to be there to pick you up and get you on your feet again. Hi, I'm Louie Lee, and God has delivered me from the depths of my financial distress. And that is my story.